It's weird not having Scott here to do the intro, actually.
I know. You need to do it.
I know, that's strange. So hi guys, welcome back to the Always Wild podcast. I'm Blair.
You're no Blair.
No, that Blair's changed. He's get here. I'm Martin. I'm joined today by Blair. How you doing?
5-star man of Always Wild. It's a pleasure.
Today we're going to have a special kind of podcast because Scotland have been playing World Cup qualifiers over the last week. So the last Scottish podcast we done went really well. So we presume it's something you like.
Yes.
We're happy to do it again. We're happy to do it every week for you.
Oh, aye. It would be a weekly thing for me. That reminds me, as we're bringing it up on air instead of off air, we should do like a weekly Fitba show like we used to do.
I think. Scottish Fitba.
Aye.
Yes.
Now that I've seen the light, we can talk all things Scottish Fitba.
That'd be great, actually.
Aye.
I think a lot of people at home would probably really like that because Scottish football, it's one of the ones that doesn't get enough coverage.
No, and it's so much better than we've all been led to believe, I think.
Easily.
It's nowhere near as bad a quality as England would have everybody believe.
No.
Aye. That would be good, I think. Yeah, a roundup.
That sounds a really good idea because hopefully we help combat some of the arrogance in there and some of the absolute pish that outlets at TalkSport peddle.
Aye, all them things are so English centric, and that this is brilliant and that's brilliant and everybody else is shite. And you're like, no, I'm not having it.
Aye, because some of the stuff they come out with is absolutely ludicrous, man. It's like how do they get away with it and how do folk buy into it other than English bias?
I lost faith in any English sports Fitba coverage. I remember how many years ago it was now, but when they tried to say Ashley Cole was the best left back in the world, and they were all saying it with a straight face, and I'm not having that. Because Philip Lam was still playing at this time, so there's just no way I was having that. Like Evra was playing at this time, you know what I mean? It was just no.
That kind of came with that was a weird opinion, man. It came through the age of kind of FIFA, but a lot of folk were peddling it from FIFA essentially.
Aye.
A lot of folk that use FIFA were going, yeah, Ashley Cole's stats are amazing, and FIFA, and it's like great for FIFA.
That's what I refer to modern Fitba fans as, the FIFA generation.
Aye, it's infuriating.
It's very infuriating. Other Fitba opinions are based on who has decent ratings in FIFA.
Aye.
And if that's the case, then when everybody thinks Scotland are pish, because all the Scottish players in FIFA have got terrible ratings.
I know. What Kieran Tierney's ratings in FIFA are shocking.
He's only an 80 in FIFA 21.
Aye.
What's that about?
Nah.
Andy Robertson's about an 86 or something because he plays for Liverpool.
Exactly. Off. We've all been watching the games over the last week. We know who's the better.
Oh yes. Yeah, I feel like we'll cover that.
Which is a shame how we don't have Scott on today because it's an opinion that really pisses Scott off.
Hang on, are we using the video uploading of this day?
Aye, if you want.
I just want to turn the light on in here because you can hardly see my face.
Aye, that's fine.
But that doesn't really help much.
Aye,
dark in this office. Aye, I don't know why Scott's not here. He must not be at his bed, the prick.
Aye, that are up to his nuts and guts.
For this length of time?
Aye.
If other things are...
Might be doing it a few times, who knows?
He's hardly run Jeremy, is he? Let's be honest.
I think he knew the direction this would be going and went, I'm not listening to the Andy Robertson slagging for an hour. Aye,
because he sort of gave it away in the group chat on Twitter, banging about how much better Kieran Tierney is than Andy Robertson. Andy is, by the way, it's an opinion I agree with. We talked about this off camera. I think Kieran Tierney is better than Andy Robertson.
Because it's been quite funny because me and some of my mates, we've been like peddling this since he was playing for Celtic, and it used to irritate the shit out of Liverpool fans. And I believed it then, and I believe it now. I just feel now, especially because he's playing in the Premier League, he's getting more recollection for what he does. And Andy Robertson, he is a decent player, and I'll give him he's a good player. But the fact that he's been labelled the best left back in the world shows how shallow that pool is. And we were kind of talking about that earlier, about after. And it's that we've went for Andy Robertson, who's not a great defender, being the best fullback in the world, to look back to the days of Maldini.
And Roberto Carlos.
Carlos, even closer to home with the likes of Patrice Evra. It's a jump. it's a jump in defensive abilities.
Aye, because you look at the Maldini, first and foremost, for all he was a fullback, isn't he remembered for running up the pitch and banging in crosses? He's remembered for being the best tackler alive on his day. Roberto Carlos could run up, cross, hit free kicks, hit penalties, and tackle. He was the complete package and a physical specimen. Andy Robertson is barely any of these things. So, you know what I mean?
It's one of the ones, it's something that I bring up in one of my group chats all the time, and a lot of what people like to give as Andy Robertson's assist stats. And it's like, well, that's great. He's had 33 Premier League assists, and most of them probably crosses, but how many crosses is he putting into the box?
Right, I said it on this very show last year when Scott and I had a disagreement about fullbacks, about who was better, Trent or Wan-Bissaka. And I'll bring the point up again because I like to be vindicated. Enough time passes and folk always realise that Blair's always right. It's great. That's how my life plays it. But no, we're both right in this opinion. And the style that Klopp has Liverpool playing and the fullbacks, they get how many crosses a game? 20 crosses a game each. Eventually, one of them's going to land. You do that enough times over the course of a season, you're going to get a high rate of assists. Neither of them are particularly great fullbacks, and that most of their crosses don't land. And you couple that with Kieran Tierney's crosses in the last game against the Faroe Islands, he's got 2 assists in one game. And Scotland don't play particularly attacking football. You know
3 assists all in.
Or was it 3?
You get credited for the pass to Shea Adams.
Right, well, 3 then. That's even better. And we, as the Scotland team, don't play particularly pressing football the way Klopp's Liverpool do. You know what I mean?
Aye.
For these reasons, I don't rate Andy Robertson's assist record. You spend enough time in a season with that constant pressing style, you're going to get crosses. Just because you land 1 out of every 10 doesn't make you a great crosser of the bar.
Because it's like going back to the game against Israel. Like, we've played Israel about, it feels like 20 times in the last 5 months.
Getting fed up watching it.
Every time we play Israel, that right back, I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he's always got Andy Robertson in toast. He's always having a great game against them.
He does.
Like their wing back, he's always pushing them back. Andy Robertson struggles to get past them. And when he was just, his crosses were all overhit. I don't know if fatigue, like, I'm trying not to be too harsh on Andy Robertson because he is obviously great.
We should be clear, he's a really good player and he plays for the national team. So it's not like it's club bias or we're shitting on him.
Aye.
It's just that it seems to be a debate. And fair play, they both seem to be in the team, Tierney and Robertson. It's not like one's being left out for the other. So it's fine. Like Tierney is in there and he does really well.
It was quite funny because like last night, like Tierney was supposed to be playing centre back. And I think he was playing most of the game as a left winger, and like you said, get 3 assists.
His first 2 crosses were excellent.
It's because he crosses it quite different. Like he likes to hit the low cross along the ground that allows you to kind of cushion the ball in. Sort of thing.
More accurate that way.
Aye, no, it's definitely. It was to go back to like the kind of first game that Scotland played like against Austria. I was quite happy to see us actually competing against a decent Austria side.
Austria are only a bad squad, only a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. They're one of them teams where a lot of the players play in the sort of bigger leagues like in Germany and that, but no for the big teams in Germany. They're sort of spread about, but they all play consistently quite well and they all play consistently for their club. So there's one of these sorts of teams and they're difficult to come up against. You know what I mean? I think their striker plays for Stuttgart, who are no mug team, you know what I mean? So that's sort of difficult to come up against. And we handled ourselves really well. It was nice to see. It was competitive.
And the guy's about 6'7". He was bound to win every kind of header.
And every aerial challenge comes his way. You expect him to win. But you're right, we were competitive, that's the best way to put it. It was nice. We get knocked down and come back, and get knocked down and come back. And that's the sort of spirit you want to see.
Aye. And I felt like we should have been on to win that game. I feel we were the better side over the 20 minutes. We started a bit slow and the players recognised that after the game. It took them a long while to kind of figure Austria out. But I think even the fact we're being competitive with these teams, it's a highlight to the job that Steve Clarke's doing for Scotland.
He's done great, isn't he? He's changed. We were talking after about how you're really excited for Euro because you believe there's a bit of faith. Not that they're going to win, obviously, we're no stupid, but that they can go to the tournament and conduct themselves with respect and can get some results, which isn't what we've thought watching Scotland for so long. No. You know what I mean? And one of the last times we did the Scottish roundup, I said that I had no faith that they were going to get anywhere, and I've changed my opinion about that a bit in the since last year because of that. We're consistently playing quite well. It's refreshing.
Because the way I've always kind of sat on it with Steve Clarke is any man that can get Kilmarnock into Europe, and he's in territory.
So true.
The job that he done at Kilmarnock was phenomenal, and you can see that now with how far Kilmarnock slid. I think they're now 11th in the league. They're in that kind of
relegation fight.
Playoff zone. Yeah. So to go for third in the league, in the Europa League playoffs, I know they get beat off. I think it was the Welsh team, Newmans or something like that, something stupid like that. I know they got in 2 legs, but Stevie Clarke had left at that point, so he's staying on his legacy.
That's a great achievement for Kilmarnock, isn't it? Because they've never been perennial contenders in the Premier League ever. Yeah. They're Kilmarnock. They've never been any good. So to get them even into the conversation of European football is incredible.
Exactly. They were competing with Celtic and Rangers every time they played. We went through a phase of not being able to get a result at Rugby Park, and Rangers were the same. They were really struggling. It was just the way he sets the team up there. A lot of the issues that people have with him is that his style's not always the most attractive on the eye, and he's not the most charismatic guy. Let's see, when you listen to his interview, he's very dry, he's very dull, but that doesn't really matter to me as long as we're getting results. The issue with Scotland, it's always been with these loud managers who, some of them try to play expansive football, it doesn't work. Some of them try and play the bleak, rubbish football that didn't work. Remember that with Craig Levein when he never phase of not playing a striker.
I was just going to say that, a 6-man midfield, nobody up front. I remember that really well.
And his kind of argument for that was it worked for Spain. That's all well and good, but we're no Spain. We've not got David Silva.
No.
We've not got Iniesta. We've not got Xavi.
No. Who did we have at that point in midfield?
I think at that point it was fucking Barry Bannon.
And James McArthur and they sorts of guys.
Aye, Barry Bannon was holding the midfield. I think Scott Brown was in there, who's again not an attacking player.
No.
Oh.
And McArthur was in there at the times, and James Morrison.
James Morrison. I think that's who he was trying to play in the hole. James Morrison. It was him or Robert Snodgrass.
Oh man, I like a bit of Snodgrass. Me and my partner, we refer to him as the Scottish Ronaldo. She's not a big football fan, but anytime she ever watched Snodgrass playing for Scotland, was right into how hard they tried.
Right.
He's a hero in our house. I don't remember why exactly. I think he was integral in one of the big games we played.
He scored the goal at I think away to Croatia that we won.
That's it. That's the one. Aye, that's the one.
I remember watching that. In my house. It was one of the games for like the last 10 minutes. You were just stoning up, playing that they didn't score because we've seen it so much.
Aye, and that was it exactly. It was the Croatia game. Aye. I think there was a reason he was a hero in my house, and I just couldn't remember what it was. Is that? But, no, I agree with you completely. The fact that the man that Clarke's not a charismatic man means less than nothing to me. I prefer it actually that he's not, because then you're not going to get somebody that's easily wound up. He's got a more quiet, methodical, tactical thinking approach, which I prefer to somebody that's loud and obnoxious. And the fact that they're not playing attractive football means even less to me, because football, and this is a common complaint, and you touch on it, and you're right to touch on it, that people complain they're boring to watch. Does it matter? Football's not about entertaining, it's about winning. It's a competitive sport. It's no pro wrestling. It's not about putting on a show. It's about winning matches and qualifying for tournaments. And Clarke's style of play has Scotland in a tournament for the first time since 1998. So I don't give a fuck how boring other people think it is. If you want excitement, play FIFA. I don't know what to tell you.
And it's that way as well. Like, there's always that flip. Like, see when you start winning games, excitement comes for that.
Exactly. Aye.
Like, when you make these tournaments, it's exciting being there. It's exciting taking part.
Exactly.
Make the matchups in your head. And see when your groups get drawn for like the qualifiers, it's exciting to look at it and go, we could actually make it through this.
We can win this. Aye. Exactly. I completely agree with you. Completely agree.
That's kind of the luxury we've got now, because our group, they're probably the two seeds that we'll be looking to top. We should be looking to topple is Denmark and Austria. But I was saying to my mates the other night, I feel Denmark are beatable, but I think they will win the group. I think we should be aiming.
Aye, on the day, we play each team twice, didn't we? That's how it works. Aye, on the night, I think Scotland can get a result against Denmark, but overall, I would expect, as you say, Denmark to win the group. They're the most capable of the teams ever along consistent.
Aye.
Than the rest is it.
They had a great result last night against Austria. They beat them 4-0 over there. I think that's maybe one of the results we'll look back at the end of the group as something that could possibly really help us.
If we had beat Austria too.
Aye, because the
Austria game was there for the taking. I think you're right about that.
It's like the draw with Israel. I feel Israel needs to be one of the teams that we are beating. They need to be one of the teams in the group that we look to beat every time we play them. This being unable. I know when you play a team so often, you can kind of feel each other out and kind of cancel each other out. So that's kind of where I sit in that one. But like a really good topic that's coming up, and some people like it, some people dislike it, is Shea Adams.
Aye. Twitter was in half and half by that, wasn't it? Shea Adams. What was my own personal feeling about him? A bit annoyed that he turned us down the first time. And I mean, I get it. He's young. He thought he would get an England career. I've got to be honest, for the sake of the show, I don't care for the fact that he's actually English. It's not like I might be wrong. I don't think he was. It's not one of these situations where his family's Scottish, but he was born elsewhere. Is his whole family not English except his grandparents or something?
I think so.
Right. See, if it was one of his parents, like McTominay, one of his parents is Scottish, one of their one's English. And I think he was born in Scotland. I might be wrong about that too.
I think he was born in Preston or something. He was born near Manchester.
Right, is that?
His dad's from Helensburgh.
It was the same with Phil Bardsley. Phil Bardsley was English and he was born in England. So look, he's a great player. And you've seen on Twitter some folk were taking it to a racial place, which obviously you shouldn't do. But then he came on and scored, so do I care that he's English, really? He came on and scored a great goal. So.
See, where I sit on it is, I've watched Scotland for years losing our best players or players that would massively improve us to nations like Ireland.
Aye, that's true.
See, like growing up and watching guys like James McCarthy, guys like Aidan McGeady gone to Ireland, and Ireland's doing really well. These guys playing major parts and getting them to tournaments. It's that way. That's kind of how international football is going.
Aye, no, you're right about that. Definitely right. I said at the time, after they get announced, I said, because I didn't go public with it, but when I was watching it, I was like, I don't think it's ideal that we're recruiting players that are English, but at the same time, if he comes on and does a job in a Scotland shirt, I'll no care. Aye. And then he come on and scored that cracker of a goal, and I'm like, I don't care.
Aye,
fuck it.
That's kind of I sit on it, and I think it's that's a testament to the job that Stevie Clarke's doing. Because see when you're going to these big tournaments like the Euros, players are going to want to play in that, and if they know that they've not really got a great chance with their home nation, they might try to get in through the back door and see if they can improve our national side.
Exactly, aye. Generally speaking, that is how it's always been one of them things I was on the fence with. On the one hand, what you just said is always how I've half looked at it, but on the other hand, I've always preferred the idea that a mere grassroots-based progression where actual local young talent is getting brought through the squad, but that's not always feasible when you're trying to be competitive. So I definitely get it. Shea Adams is a great striker, scores a lot of goals, plays in a big team, so I definitely get it. I think I can see because there's the idea of only bringing in people that are genuinely born in your country and try to take them out. Grassroots, I suppose, is the best word for it. Approach, but when you're trying to end terrible streaks like we were on, and you're trying to be competitive in tournaments, and you're trying to qualify for tournaments, you don't always have the time or the inclination to try that long. Right, we'll see who we can bring up through the lower stages process. You look to see who's established elsewhere and if they can work for you, which I get, and it seems to be working. So, to sum up, I guess I'm on board with him, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. Because he played with him.
Because that's kind of how I sit as well. Because even when you dissect the Scotland squad, but the team that played last night against the Faroe Islands, that's not a team that's made up of folk for different countries. That's made up mostly of guys that were born in Scotland. So I think we're still getting that homegrown approach, because you've still got Andy Robertsons, where you've got your Kieran Tierneys, you've got your John McGinns. I was going to say Scott McTominay, but he's no Scottish. We just touched on that. Callum McGregor, Ryan Fraser, guys, still got a host of Scottish talent, and I feel like I now need to retract what I was saying about Scott McTominay.
Good, I want it on the record.
Aye,
because I was at the man's defence.
Aye, see when he was playing centre half.
He's a shite centre back, guy. He's a shite centre back.
Even now, I think it was just after we'd scored. He played, I don't know, like a 60-yard pass for the back, like upfield. I think it was Kieran Tierney again, funnily enough, that gave the ball, played it in, and John McGinn should have got his second, but there was a lack of communication with him and Lyndon Dykes. He spoke about that in his interview, actually. He said if he had shouted to Lyndon Dykes, like used his voice, it would have been 2-0, because he was running in and Lyndon Dykes had stuck a leg out to get it, and if he'd said leave, he'd have left.
Got it.
Aye.
And McTominay is great at that. He's a great long pass, and he's so physical on the ball. I don't remember, it was I think it was the Austria game, or the Faroe Islands, I can't remember which one it was now. But he was running with the ball, and they try to get it off him, and he was just muscling people out the way. He's so big and strong. It's great to see.
In the Austria game, he was put back in like the centre of midfield, and he played really well. He was storming that game, because I remember that was my hot take for the first half was, holy shit.
Yeah, no, he's when he's played in his proper position, he's excellent.
Aye.
He really is a great player.
And he's still very young as well, because
he's only 22, I think. That's
the impressive thing about this Scotland squad is the youth. And it's really good, because like Shea Adams is only 24, McTominay's in early 20s, Kieran Tierney is 23, you've got John McGinn, I think John McGinn's about 25, 26, so he's still got a lot of life left to give Scotland. Andy Robertson's 28, he's got another campaign or two left in him. So we've still got a lot there to work with, and you've got good young players coming through as well. You've got the likes of Billy Gilmore.
Gilmore, aye, the Chelsea boy, he's good.
You've got Davy Turnbull for Celtic. It seems possibly if this boy stays in the right track, that our problem at right back might be sorted, because you've got the young lad for Rangers coming through. Patterson. I can't remember his first name. It's Nathan Patterson.
That's the guy Gerard was talking about, wasn't it? Him and Clarke had a conversation that some young boy was being left out the squad despite him being potential. I think that's who it was. I can't remember the boy's name. I think it was him though.
Nathan Patterson, because he looks really good. He was playing in Europe for Rangers, scored against Antwerp, so he looks a good promising player. And I think with Gerard, I know he wants his players to be in the team, and I get that, but be patient. Oh,
aye. How many young players have you seen wasted over the years because they've been rushed way too quickly and they didn't merit it yet? That's what I'm saying. Football's no a sprint. It's a marathon. You've got to take time to cultivate young guys and get them in and playing them consistently. And getting them used to the lifestyle, the money that they make. You can't just fling folks straight into that. It messes with them.
And it's that way as well. It's like the call-ups for this game, like these games, will be different for the next game.
Aye.
Although he's still got a chance to make it to the Euros, I think that's what Gerrard needs to be mindful of. Like if he continues to put, because Tavernier for Rangers, he's injured now. I'm unsure in the length of that injury, how long the boy Patterson will play. It was actually strange that they didn't play him against Celtic. I think he might have had a niggle. That's how they went for the guy Balogun, but he was getting ripped apart. So they ended up bringing Nathan Patterson on in the second half, who done pretty decent, but getting tossed in for 30 minutes against Celtic, it's probably no where the player should be judged. I think they need to have consistent.
Aye, exactly. Aye. That's what I'm saying. You can't just fling them in and then judge them off the back of a couple of games. It takes time. You need consistency in football. It takes years to be established.
I just remembered actually he will not be playing for Rangers. He's banned.
Right.
Aye, I just forgot that came in yesterday. He's banned. He's
right.
for breaking COVID protocols.
Ah, that old chestnut.
It was him and I think there was 5 other youth players who got banned for. I don't know what they were doing, if it was a party or a rave.
Aye, I did hear about that. A handful of Rangers guys get caught in. I think they were partying, celebrating because they won the league.
Aye,
I think that's what it was.
Aye, they just get their bans just come into place the other day. So he'll be missing for a bit, which is a big blow for the boy, because he was intention to go to the Euros, but Stevie Clarke, he would have been playing him in the friendlies, because we've still got our bounce games to play before the Euros. Let's see if they warm up games before the Euros. If you impress in there, you're going to the Euros.
Aye, exactly. There's still time. The season's not finished yet either, so there's still time for folk to get their name in. It's nice. It's nice to see because when they announced the squad selection for this World Cup, these World Cup games, is quite 10 on with the squad setup. We've got a good team. There's a lot of names in there I was picking out. Like, I'm glad they're there. There's good players.
And there was good players that were missing. And
there's a few good players they're missing. Aye, there's something I would like to see, and it's probably not going to happen because they play for St Johnstone. But see the St Johnstone goalie, Xander Clarke. I quite like him.
Right, okay.
I'd like to see him in about the team. I can see why they wouldn't play him, because David Marshall's there and he's a national treasure now. And Craig Gordon is still there, obviously, who's long been Scotland's best goalkeeper, or among them. But it's a soft spot for Xander Clarke, so I think he's good. But if he played for a bigger team, he would get more recognition.
I must admit, I find it quite odd that Alan McGregor's not picked.
Aye, I can see that. Aye, he's just won the league, didn't he? So.
I don't know if there's maybe something there with McGregor. I think McGregor had retired from international football in a bit of a huff.
So not
a few years back. There was a couple of them that done that, and they've not been seen since. I don't know if it's something maybe to do with that, but you would think with the Euros coming up, like McGregor, he probably is Scotland's best keeper. So why not try and iron that out to have Scotland's best team at the Euros? Like, we've seen McGregor in Europe making good saves.
He's definitely up there, and he's definitely in the conversation about who the best Scottish keeper is. And his team just won the league by a considerable margin, and he was a big bet.
He was arguably their best player this season.
He was a really big bet.
I would like to see that to be something that Stevie Clarke tries to iron out a wee bit, because I've got a bit of faith that McGregor can do really well. I feel Marshall is hit and miss at times. He has a really good game, and then he has a really poor game. I think it was a game against Austria. He was quite poor for both the goals.
It was that was one of my notes. The soft goals he let in. I'm of the opinion that Craig Gordon is the best Scottish goalie, and I would play him.
Personally. I like Craig Gordon, but just going for who they play on, it's a bit hard to choose a guy that plays for Hearts, who are in the Championship, over the guy that's just won the league.
On paper, I can see that, but surely the individual ability has to come into play here, and Craig Gordon has proven his for a decade. The most expensive British goalkeeper of all time. He named the best save in Premier League history a couple of years ago. He did some Premier League save of the century. Sorry, no in history. He's been consistently great at every club he's played for. So, I mean, he doesn't win leagues, but I think it's because he did for Celtic, but prior to that, he didn't. He won everything with Celtic. So I can see why you would pick the guy for the Champions over the guy for Hearts, but But on individual ability, I'd still say Craig Gordon was better than McGregor. Close. It's close. It is close. But I would say Gordon.
I think now I sway on McGregor. I think McGregor's probably the better keeper now. He's definitely been the better keeper this year, which is where I feel Scotland should be selecting their players on.
True. Current form. No, that is true.
Which brings up the argument of like, where does Ryan Gauld sit in the Scotland squad? Because Ryan Gould's been playing.
Ryan Gauld was one of the names I was surprised was left out.
Aye.
Ryan Gauld would make my team. Yeah, Ryan Gauld would make my team if it was me.
Aye. Especially when it was, I think it was Ryan Jack that pulled out with injury.
Yeah.
I thought because that's a midfielder, I thought they might bring Gauld in. I know they're different kinds of midfielder.
Aye, yeah.
Scotland already have numerous defensive midfielders. You've still got your John Flex. You've still got your McTominays. Your
Kenny McLean's in there.
McLean. I forgot about McLean. You've still got McGinn plays really well in that space as well. You've got Callum McGregor. So to have a kind of natural attacking midfielder.
Gauld brings a bit of creativity that some of the other guys maybe don't have. A bit of flair, that some of the other guys maybe don't have. So I was surprised he didn't make it. I think he has to make the Euro team, I would imagine.
I would hope
surely. So. I would like to see him in the Euro team.
Because he was one of the names I was also surprised was missed out. I was surprised that David Turnbull been missed out because he's been, for me, the best Scottish midfielder this season. Since he came in, I feel he's just been excellent. Obviously, James Forrest can make a difference to the team, but he was
another one I was going to bring up. I was a bit surprised that Forrest wasn't there.
I feel that's just because he's been injured for so long, and I don't think he's even played 90 minutes yet since, when was it, September he got injured. So it's
Christ, that's a bad one. That's a long
time. It was one of the ones he was supposed to be back in, let's say, December, and then it wasn't, and it was January, and then it wasn't, and then it was February, and I think he came back at the end of February, start of March. So
maybe he'll be fit in time for Euro.
I would hope so, because Forrest is one of the players who can make a huge difference.
He can. He's a good player.
And I'm happy to watch us, to look at, let's see when the Scotland team gets announced, like the day of the game, let's see the starting 11, see to look at that starting 11 and not be haunted by the presence of Ollie McBurney. I'm so happy.
I know.
Everybody must be sick of these absolute slating the cunt.
No, he is. He's terrible, isn't he? And you've got Che Adams to thank for that, and my man Kevin Nisbet to thank for that. They're keeping him out.
I was going to bring Kevin Nisbet up.
I'm fucking delighted for Kevin Nisbet, man. It's great.
He was a bit of a wild card coming in, because he came on last night. I think that was his debut for Scotland.
It was.
So it was a big
first game.
It was a big day for him.
Happy for the boy. He's a good striker.
He showed in Scotland that he is a really good finisher.
He is.
It's a good. See if we can get Lee Griffiths back. Like, because a good striker is something Scotland's missed
since Kenny Miller.
Since Kenny Miller, because Lee Griffiths, he's been good in spells, but like his consistency level isn't there.
Exactly.
Being able to be in the team due to injury and stuff like that. So that's where I settle on having guys like Shea Adams, and then you've got Lyndon Dykes as well. But I think the honeymoon period is
right. I've got him in my notice here. I'm unsold on Dykes. Completely unsold on the boy, and it's the same way the other one, Callum Patterson. I know he wasn't in the squad for this, but he was in the Euro qualifier squad. I didn't think he wasn't up to much.
No.
So our options up front aren't great. To see Adams and Nisbet get a look in is quite inspiring.
Because that's the thing with Callum Patterson. I'm unsure what position he actually plays. Because he started off for a while as a right back and was playing back, and then I think they pushed him to right mid, and then he was a striker for ages as well. So I don't think he even knows what his best position is.
No, and unsold on the guy. When they bring him on, you're like, I don't know. But if they were bringing Griffiths on, you'd be like, right, Griffiths has it in him to make magic. Griffiths is a good free kick. He's an excellent finisher. he has it in him to save a game. When you bring Callum Patterson on, you're like, he's got a cool moustache. That's about the length and breadth.
I was going to say, the only thing you think when you see Callum Patterson coming on is, fuck me, he looks like Tam Selleck. But you don't think any of his ability. It's just, there's Tam Selleck. You put a meme, and you're not inspired.
No.
You come on and do well. And it's the exact same when McBurney comes on. Because McBurney's now played 16 games for Scotland and hasn't scored a goal.
It's different with McBurney. There's no, when Patterson comes on, it's no like, he's not going to do something well. You're just unsure that he probably isn't going to do something well. When McBurney comes on, you know for a fucking fact he's not going to do anything good.
I feel
with Patterson, there's a chance.
See when Kenny McLean comes on the pitch, I just go, he's not going to do it, is he?
No, I don't mind McLean. I think he's not got much spark about him, but he's capable on the ball. So my heart doesn't sink when I see him. And when he gets on, you're like, right, he's not going to steal the game, but he's not going to lose the game either. You know what I mean? Kenny McLean's just sort of in there and he does his job, which he's a central midfielder. What you sort of expect. You expect him to just come in, hold up, play, make some passes. I mean, that's what he does.
I would rather see Stuart Armstrong playing more over him. There's the guy John Fleck as well, and I don't know how John Fleck's playing in the Premier League. Like that, same with McBurney, they can't fucking baffle me.
I forgot John Fleck even played football.
Aye. He's one of the guys you have to look twice to see who it is. What the hell? Aye, and then you've got McBurney coming on, and it just the guy's demeanour annoys me. And this basically destroys everything that they're trying to say about McBurney. People in the media are trying to say Scottish fans dislike McBurney because he's English. That's a lie, because as you've heard in the last 10 minutes, you've heard us creaming over
Adams and his beautiful goal.
Comedy. Phil Barsley.
Even Phil Barsley he put in a shift. He was good.
Aye.
He was a solid right back for many years. He did a job.
Aye.
And McBurney's just pish.
We're happy when Richie wanted to play for us. We like Lyndon Dykes.
Well, I'm unsure about Lyndon Dykes, but generally, I agree with you.
With Lyndon Dykes, where I sit on him is, I think the honeymoon period is slowly drifting away.
It's because he grew hair.
Aye, I feel it's getting less and less, but he's quite suited to international football, and I think it suits Steve Clarke's style. Like he's one of the guys. If he wasn't a football player, he'd probably be a lumberjack. He's quite physical.
Aye.
He flings his body about. He's about as technical as a typewriter. And I said this in the last podcast, and I stick with it. The man is as technical as a typewriter. But see when you get a man who's thrown himself about and is winning you those second balls, stuff like that, winning you those kind of loose balls, you'll accept his lack of physical ability. But when McBurney strolls in the pitch, the man is 6'4" or 6'3", and I've never seen him win a header.
No.
That annoys me. The man's socks is too small, and that annoys me. I don't understand why he's cutting about with the trainer socks on. I don't know what's happening there. His shin guards, where are they? What? The guy, he struts about like he's Tam Miller. Like, see the way Tam Miller dresses? That's fucking Jack Grealish, who's also a fucking waste of space.
Oh, don't even get me started on Jack Grealish. England are pinning all their fucking Euro hopes on Jack Grealish. Well, they're going to have a hard time getting out the group. Aye, exactly.
Phil Foden pisses all over him.
I agree with you. I think James Ward-Prowse is better than Jack Grealish.
You would take James Ward-Prowse. Do you take James Maddison out of him?
I don't like James Maddison either, but I would even take James Maddison. And the way they're building him up on the fucking Sky Sports punditry that Jack Grealish is he's gonna guide England to success. But really, you're hanging your hopes on that piece of shit.
Aye.
Good. I'm glad they are. It makes me all the more confident to beat them when we play them in Europe. Good. Bring Grealish. Because
that's the thing with James Maddison, but he's not played in Scotland in 5 years or something, right? And that's how I don't rate him. And it's a horrible way to look at it, because I go, I played that one season for Aberdeen and didn't cut the mustard up here. So,
It's a perfectly reasonable way to look at it, I would say. How many of them could come up to Aberdeen and do a job?
And I
playing
think
way up there.
But I feel it's quite harsh because the guy was like 20.
Have you ever been to Aberdeen? It's a miserably cold, wet place. How many folk Fairway down south could come up to Aberdeen and make a living?
Granite City. I was looking
at
at earlier. Up in the Highlands, it rains 270 days a year.
Exactly. I spent a week working in Aberdeen once, and I enjoyed it because I liked the miserable cold weather and the rain and the greyness. I liked it. But could somebody come up from down south and make a fucking weekly living up there? Drowning. The English, it's funny enough, when you meet English folk on holiday, they like to complain about rain. But son, English rain and Scottish rain aren't they the same?
No, it's
Disney rain in England. It rains in Scotland.
Talk
to us about rain. There's levels to this shit. Aye. Don't talk to us about rain, motherfucker. You don't know.
A good example of this, I know it's going off track of Scotland. Well, no, really, because see, Riyad Mahrez, he had a trial at St Mirren, and he back in the day, and
yes,
and he jumped to a hotel window and pedalled away on a bike, never to be seen again because of the weather. That's what he said. It was too cold. He was like, "Fuck this."
That's
I worked out for him. Ended up at Leicester. Now he's at Man City. Still a prick.
He's still a prick.
I'm not a fan.
It was funny the last time we went to Iceland. We went out on a trip, and the wee tour guide was saying, "I hope you dressed appropriately. In Iceland, we experience all seasons in a day, and the weather can change." And like everybody else in the bus was American, but me and Karen were sitting up the back of the bus going, "Mate, you don't need to warn us about that shit." We're for Scotland, mate. We're not for Kansas. I know a thing or two about bad weather. It's gonna be fine.
We've dressed appropriate. We've got the appropriate mental ability. It's
fine. I can cope with a blizzard and a storm.
Aye. You can cope with 4 seasons in a day.
I'm used to it. A bit weird if we don't experience it. But you're right. I think the fact that Madison couldn't quit at Aberdeen is a good testing point. How many of they folk could come up and play up here in our waterlogged pitches when it rains for nearly 300 days a year? And every building in Aberdeen is grey. It's got the Granite City for a reason. It is a very grey place. It is a miserable place where hopes and dreams go to die. And in saying that, I quite enjoyed my time there. I'm that sort of person.
But it's definitely playing on the 4G pitches down there to coming up with these pristine, outstanding pitches coming up there and having to go to Livingston on a Wednesday night and playing on carpet. So you can describe it. It's like, see the AstroTurf that you used to play on when you were a kid and you get all the wee black bits in your shoe.
I used to get them behind my eyeballs because I was a goalkeeper when I was younger and I played in a bunch of different teams. And when you dive out and save the ball, all the wee black jelly bits, I don't know what they are, the wee bits of jelly for grip or whatever, they would bounce off the ball, hit off my gloves and go into my face because I was like saving it. I would get them down behind my eyelids, man. It's horrible. They're still in there. I think they dissolved after a while because I couldn't get them back out. So I was just cutting about with these jelly bits behind my eye. I wouldn't know what to do in a real football pitch. I've only ever played on the shite ones we have here. I wouldn't know what to do in a proper 5-star stadium.
It's different. How you can actually play is different. Did you notice that a lot of players that come from abroad that play over here, they do struggle on these types of pitches? But see, good technical players, they struggle because you can't really play technical football on it. It's more kind of aimed at the hitting hopes up the path. Like Lyndon Dykes to push people off the ball. Because it's funny, one of those pitches, you need to really train on it to be efficient. The ball bounces different.
It does.
Sets up different.
You kick up a lot of grass when you're trying to get a nice smooth pass. Kick up a lot of grass.
You need to kind of drill it on that, and that's why teams like Livingston have a great home record. This team, people go there and they struggle.
Hard places to play.
Aye, and they're hard teams. That Scottish football, it's never. But that's how it kind of bothers me about when people slag Stevie Clarke for how he sets up. But Scottish football is no great. It's not the most attractive to watch at times.
No, it's not got that Iberian South American flair, does it? That a Spain or a Brazil would play with. It's not quite get the crisp technical prowess at Italy. You know what I mean? There's no quite like their precise passing or their precise tackling. It's a very unique style that only we can play. the folk come and struggle with.
Aye, that bit up the park. Yeah, he's shot putter.
Aye, that's it exactly. We build them big. Yeah.
It works.
Yes. We all eat way too much pakora over a weekend, so we're all quite protein rich.
Aye. They all like a drink, so they're all hungover.
Wouldn't have it any other way. The football looks too flash for my enjoyment.
Aye, and it loses something. Let's see, with Scotland, you've still got that. What football and the fans are still connected. There's still that kind of purity between.
That's it. Aye.
The mutual respect between player and fan.
Tickets are affordable. You can go and see them. There's not as much shit. That's what I was saying before. Fans, anybody that's listened to us before will know that I was a Man United guy, and Hibernian were always my second team. But recently, I have fell out of love with that. The style that they play in England, the constant flash. It seems like the actual Fitbit is secondary to the players' like appearance or their reputation or how many Twitter followers they have or whatever. It's never just about the Fitbit. It's never just about the game. So I've done a 180. I can't. My mum would be disappointed in me because she loved Alex Ferguson. But I'd sort of only really follow Hibs now. I don't pay attention to what Man United are doing. I don't know how they're doing. I don't know if they've won their last so many games. And it's obviously not like a glory seeker thing or a Rangers fan, is it? But Hibs have always been my second team. I was quite young because I liked Grant Brebner and Gary O'Connor and Stephen Dobie and all the guys. So no, I just sort of follow them because, as you said, there's more purity in Scottish football. It's nicer. It's just about the game. It's not about, like this guy's got 5 million Instagram followers, so he's going to be a superstar. Or look what his hair is this week. We don't give a fuck about that stuff. It's just about the game.
You're not paying guys ludicrous salaries to sit in the
bench. Aye, exactly.
Because I seen this the other day on one of the forums, and it's an Arsenal under 21 player. I think it's that guy in Keith or something. His name is. He's a striker for them. He's not really near the first team, but gets £130,000 a week.
Jesus, what?
There's many players in Scotland that don't get £130,000 a year.
Damn near all of them, aye. 130 grand a week would bankrupt most teams in Scotland. Even the big clubs up here wouldn't pay that.
I think for Celtic and that, their highest paid player is like 40 grand a week.
Way more reasonable. It's all these wee things. It's all these wee things that's made me just fucking. I can't be bothered with the Premier League.
And there's no accountability to the players. No. Let's see if they don't play well. Nobody takes them up about it.
No. They can't afford it. They can't afford the bench players that don't play well because they make a fortune and the club would be losing money.
Because that's the thing. Like, for me, football's a sport. It's like that. But folk want to run. Like, a lot of fans like to run football as a business, and they like to use football as a job when it suits them. Like, see, when a player leaves, they like to use the phrase, "Or if you got offered twice as much money at your job, you would take it." And it's that right. I'll accept that, but I accept the same kind of accountability. See, at my job, see if I don't do my job,
you get the sack.
I get sacked. Like a player.
Right, no, I completely agree with you.
Because then you see managers losing their job all the time down there, and it's really appalling. Because managers get like, you take over a West Brom, who fucking don't play.
They don't play. They've never played decent football. They're the living embodiment of a yo-yo team. They get relegated, they come back. They get relegated, they come back, and it keeps the club thriving. They don't mind getting relegated because they know they'll win promotion again, and they'll get that ludicrous promotion value that the Championship team gets. You get more money for winning the Championship in England than you do for a domestic treble in Scotland times 3. It's shocking. So they want to get relegated, because you say they run it like a business. Teams like that want to get relegated so they can get the big fucking payout to come back up. It's sickening, actually. And for so long, you've known me a long time. I've always ranted about the Premier League. And folk always say to me, "Why do you keep watching it then? Why do you keep caring?" And I'm like, "Damn it, I'm getting too old. I can't." Just I get more enjoyment. I asked myself, I get more enjoyment following the team that's meant to be my second team, because they care more. When they do quite well, they seem to care more. You know what I mean?
Aye,
They're no millionaires. It's not about how many folk follow them on Twitter or whatever. It's about the game. And I'm like, I appreciate that, mate. So why am I bothering watching this other thing that I don't like?
it was 2016, I think, when Hibs
Won the cup.
won the Scottish Cup.
I remember that. David Gray's header. I remember it very, very, very well. It was beautiful.
You would never see teams like that down south. Like,
No.
Down south team, because Hibs are usually there or thereabouts with the top six, right? So we'll compare that to a team like Southampton down in England, who's like middle of the pack. Because
a solid 10th, 8th type team.
Aye, so there's only 12 teams in Scotland, so we'll try and make it fair. Let's see teams like Southampton. Maybe not as much this season, but teams like that, they value, because Southampton are doing quite well in the FA Cup, they value like the league. Like they value finishing in the top 10 or top 8, no getting relegated over the league, like over a cup. Because you would see that with teams like Wolves and Man United playing second string teams in the cup so they could get into Europe in the football in the league, finish a certain position to get a certain amount of money. You know, that's just, to me, that's just ludicrous, because football should surely be about winning things.
We had this very disagreement with Scott like a month ago, you and me. Do you remember? He was talking about how he would sacrifice the League Cup and the FA Cup to see Liverpool do well in the league. And we were both like, surely to Christ, you wanted to compete in everything. You wanted to compete as a Mickey Mouse Cup. It's a fucking cup. Trophies. It goes down in the history books you won a trophy.
Exactly. And I think for a lot of English fans as well, and this isn't a dig at MD, and I hope nobody takes this offensive, but for a lot of them, like they don't really live the experience of going to the football. Like a lot of the Hibs fans up there, they go to the games week in, week out. They've seen misery. They have seen their team relegated to the fire.
Hibs. I remember that. That was surprised the hell out of me. Hibs get relegated. You know, I'm surprised Hearts have been relegated. When Hearts went down, that shocked the hell out of me.
I wasn't Hearts.
I know they've never been great, but.
Like Levine and Budge, they just can't. Because Craig Levine, he was like the sporting director of like Hearts, right? The guy doing the interviews for the Hearts job, for the manager job, sorry, and he ended up getting the manager job. Is he interviewing himself? Is he sitting there going, "Yes, I would be a great candidate for the job"?
That would be a hilarious conversation with that really dry, droll voice of his. No, I'm not surprised in that they were pushing the team. I'm just surprised that growing up, Hearts were always a big. They weren't like there was the old firm, right? That obviously the two biggest teams by a country mile, and then there was these like other wee group of teams. The other four, I used to call them. It was the two Edinburgh teams, Hearts and Hibs. It was Dundee United and Aberdeen, and they were always sort of there. They didn't win things, but they were always kind of after the old firm. They were the next best lot usually. So when Hearts went down, and did Dundee United not get relegated a couple of years ago? That I was like, what the fuck?
That was the thing when Rangers went into administration and ended up getting put down to League Two. That's what they were labelling, like Aberdeen and Dundee United as they were labelling that as a new fun, because they were expecting them to be like the next dominant force in Scottish football alongside Celtic. And it worked out for like a season, and then Dundee United get relegated.
I see. That's what I mean. When them and Hearts and Hibs all went down, that's a shock to me. I can't believe that. Because they were always the next biggest fucking teams after the Old Firm. So it was just
when you see teams like Hamilton escaping every year.
You talked about that before. They're great at that.
One of the annoying teams that sit last for like 90% of the season, and that like as soon as the split comes, they just rally up the league. They're really good. They're really good at that.
Yeah, but when you talk about us being more connected, when this pandemic finally is done and like properly done, not just away for a week or two and then comes back, I'm going to get a season ticket to Hibs. I think.
Right.
I'm going to go up and we can stay in hotels and shit the night before the game. I'd love that. I think that'd be really cool.
Eastern Road, it's a
nice stadium. I was there once
for I think it was the Hibs Rangers game. I think Hibs get hammered. They got hammered something like 5-2 after Rangers. But no, it was a nice stadium. It's much better. I'm not a fan of Tynecastle, but
No.
Tynecastle suits what they're trying to build. Like they try and build a very intimidating atmosphere. So it's like very close. It's very kind of tower area. It's very intimidating place to be for another football team. So I get why kind of Tynecastle is how it is, because it fits the philosophy of Hearts Football Club to just be nasty bastards.
That being said, I hope they come back up, because having the two Edinburgh teams in the Premier League adds to the flair. That's why I'm glad Rangers are back. I'm not a Rangers fan. Hate them, actually. I hate Celtic and I've hated them both my entire life. But I'm glad they're both there at the same time. Celtic without Rangers wasn't anywhere near as fun, I don't think. I don't know how you feel about that as a fan, but for me, as not a fan of either of them. They're better when they're together.
I think it's for the Scottish game, it's better.
Aye.
Well, it depends how you sit on it. Like Scottish game, for Europe, it's better in that sense. But when Rangers were relegated down, it was like every season there was like different teams winning the cups. Like from that time, St Johnstone had won cups, Aberdeen had won cups, Hibs had won cups. So it was good to see a variety of teams winning cups.
Aye, I'll give you that. Aye, that was nice.
So it was good in that sense, and it was good for their fans. But then Rangers are back now, and we're looking to have two teams in the Champions League, which that brings more money to the game. It brings more eyes to the game.
And I like that they're back in doing well, because now if one of the other teams, of Hibs or Aberdeen or whoever, managed to craft out a good season while Rangers and Celtic are both back being Rangers and Celtic again properly, it makes it all the more impressive. Like if Hibs finished third this season, right, which it looks like they're going today, which would be great, that would be good, because then it means at some point they've had results over the big teams, and they've conducted themselves well against teams above their station. It makes the placing a bit more special.
Because that's the same as with St Johnstone this season, because St Johnstone this season won the League Cup. Aye, and it's
more impressive because Rangers are back to being Rangers again.
Aye, because it was St Mirren that put Rangers out, and it was Ross County that put Celtic out.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Aye, it was a couple of kind of freak results, but in cup football that can happen.
That's what I like about cup football, and I'll never understand why folk is touched on there say, it's like a Mickey Mouse Cup, I don't want it. No, cup football's great. Cup football's I like knockout football, because anything can happen in the day.
A lot of people say that after they've been put out.
Aye.
A lot of people go, and that's the thing with Liverpool as well. Like Liverpool in their domestic competitions haven't been great. They've been great in the league, they've been great in Europe, but like the cups, they haven't.
Exactly. Aye.
It's easy for them to say they don't care when they're not winning. I think once you start winning these cups and you become a bit accustomed to it, it's different, because Arsenal kind of look at the FA Cup with a bit of pride. They always seem to be wanting to win it.
The FA Cup's a big cup. I remember there was a time it was one of the most sought after fucking domestic cups in Europe, the FA Cup. It had that huge television numbers. Everybody tuned in to watch the FA Cup final. Nobody cares.
That's that. It was the best club cup competition in the world. The FA Cup. I agree with that there. It was the biggest, easily. And now it's been devalued by teams like fucking Wolves.
Aye.
No disrespect to Wolves. They were the first team to come off the top of my head. But teams that are going, I would rather finish such and such in the league.
That's what I was going to say. It's because of what you touched on, that it's run like a business. Folk don't care about cups. They'd rather rest, try and get European spots because of the enormous, egregious fucking payouts that they get. No, I don't buy into all that stuff. That's when we touched on it when Hibs won the cup in 2016. It was an amazing feeling. Everybody was so happy. Edinburgh, everybody was out partying. It was great. It was a massive, massive deal. But again, a lot of teams in England don't care. They win the FA Cup. They go, all right, I'd rather win the league. You know,
I'd rather finish in a European position. And that's like what you said. When Hibs won it, there was like street parties. They were invading the pitch, which ended up invoking some ugly scenes with opposition fans.
It did.
But that is what it is. That's heat of the moment. That's passion. That's passion for fans. And I think times you'll see that. Times you'll see people logging heads, and I think that's just you get so engorged in the game.
You do, and I've told Caroline early on that if we beat England in Euro, she's getting pregnant that night.
And you know what, we'll do it that hard. It's twins.
Aye, I'm going to sire twins the night Scotland beat England in Euro. Which I think we will.
We can come on to that if you want, because that's kind of the last point in the agenda. Like, where do you see Scotland in this European group?
I think we can qualify out that group. Who's it again? We have England, the Czech
and Czech Republic.
Right. Croatia are a great team, but all their stars are old now.
Aye.
You're looking at Mandzukic and Modric and Rakitic. They're getting on.
Hoffman, best defender in the world by his own admission.
Aye, right. So do you fear them as much as what you would have a couple of years ago? No, I wouldn't say so. Czech Republic haven't been a force in European football since the early 2000s. Maybe they got to the quarter final or something. Was it Euro 2004 or the World Cup one of the years ago? They did really well in one of them because they had Nedved and
Pavel Nedved and was it Barros up front?
Yeah, was it Jan Koller, the big bald fella that played for Dortmund?
Could have been. I remember they had Barros at one point.
They had Milan Barros at one point now. I'm sure Jan Koller was their striker back then because he was great.
It's you've got the likes of Pavel Nedved.
Aye, so but they're not the force they used to be in England. If your team are afraid, if the English national squad inspire fear in you, then you support the ranked team. I tell you, there's nothing scary about that team. Does the Right Honourable Sir Harry Kane put the shits up you? Doesn't frighten me. No.
I really rate Harry Kane. I think he's the one player in that team that is at that kind of world class level. Him and Sterling.
Aye, but I'm not afraid of them. Seeing their names in a team sheet doesn't make me think, oh fuck, there's no point in playing.
And it's that way as well. I was really surprised with England last night. And I know I probably shouldn't be, but I expected them to walk all over Poland. And
I didn't.
They massively struggled because that Poland side, they're piss poor. And like my girlfriend's Polish, so I try and keep up with Polish national team as much as I can. So I was watching them the other night against Andorra, and they were shocking. I was actually, if this team didn't have Lewandowski, Lewandowski got injured that night, so he wasn't even playing.
That's a big let-off. He's one of the most clinical scorers that's fucking existed in a long time. He's ridiculous, that boy.
We've got that guy that plays for Hertha Berlin, Piontek. I'm not sold in Piontek. Every time I've seen him, he's been passion. I know I kind of dislike the guy on a personal basis as well, but that's neither here nor there. So I feel like I come across quite biased when I talk about Piontek, but nah, no sold in that.
No, I'm not sold in England. I never have been. There's never been a time I've looked at England and thought they're going to win something. Never. Because for every one decent player they've got, the rest is overhyped pish. Because their media love to overhype folk.
Like their defence, like see when you look at that back line, you've got Nick Pope in next, Jordan Pickford.
It's probably going to be Pickford, a midget with no fucking arms.
Aye, Pickford's got smaller arms than me. You've got Harry Maguire. I know
ranted about Harry Maguire more than once.
I know he scored the winner last night, but you don't buy your defenders to really score goals.
Exactly. He can fling his big slab forehead at a header when he's in the box. Fine. Can't tackle worth dick.
And
can't do anything.
Everyone likes to rave about John Stones, but John Stones goes through periods in football where he's quite good.
Right.
He's just John Stones. He's not consistent. He goes through where he hits good form, and it's form with John Stones. I was going to say it's no ability, but that's harsh because you need to have ability to play for Man City. But with John Stones, his form where he's a really good defender, and folk have him in the top 10 best defenders in the world.
That's ludicrous. It's fucking ludicrous. That's what I'm saying about the English and their hype trends.
Aye.
These are the same people that put Marcus Rashford as one of the best players in the world. He just isn't.
But they don't talk about Ruben Diaz, who's twice the defender and makes him look good. It's similar to the effect Vidic had on Rio Ferdinand.
Aye. See, they've just been named the best partnership in Premier League history.
Aye.
They're half right. I liked Ferdinand, but he was nae Vidic.
I struggle to disagree with it.
Vidic was different class.
You see, when you look, is there any other partnerships that had the same levels of success? I'm trying to think who John Terry played alongside, but I think his changed.
Yeah, his did change.
So it's not the same consistent levels.
Cohen and Tony Adams at Arsenal would be the next best thing you could think of. But even then.
Aye.
But how many Champions Leagues did they win? None.
Aye, that's true.
They were great though. Don't get me wrong. They were great. They were proper defenders. Martin Cohen, but is likely to kill a man than he is to fucking do anything else. Proper centre backs.
That was the same with Vidic, wasn't it? And
Vidic he's always going to be one of my favourite players. I love Vidic. I thought he was brilliant.
I felt the same about Ferdinand as well. But Ferdinand, he wasn't a pussy.
No, he was a big old boy and he could get stuck in.
And you seen that after he retired from football, he was wanting to be a boxer.
Yeah.
But he signed up to be a professional boxer, but then he got injured, which was quite a shame because I'd like to have seen him get battered in the ring.
Aye, Vidic, that'd have been funny.
Betty Vidic did batter him in the ring.
Probably. I remember I watched an interview with him once, and the night they won the Champions League, Ferdinand was damn near in tears. And when they were standing waiting to get the trophy, apparently he said Vida turned to him and goes, "We do not cry," and then just stared at him until he got his act together. And you're like, all right. Because he's fucking Serbian, he's that Eastern European, out in the fucking winter with your shirt half cutting wood, no greeting about shit, you know what I mean?
It's a mentality, it's a man's world, it's a man's world.
Aye, the idea of toxic masculinity doesn't exist in Eastern Europe. They're like, what? Just fuck up.
Aye.
And they're right. They're right. They're in the right. They're better men than we are.
Did you hear that when Russians talk? I was watching something about the Russian football hooligans, and that's what they were saying. They just like to fight over there because if you don't fight, you're no a man. But see somebody comes up to you and they want to fight you. They've got respect for the people that they have a fight with. They've got respect for those that say no because they see them as weak and no men.
Well, there's something to that, man. For all like folk on here like to go on and complain on Twitter about how evil, toxic males are and that you're not supposed to be a man. They're the sorts of fuckers you depend on if your country gets invaded. Hell, man, do anybody that's ever invaded Russia because they're up for a bloody fight. He's like people born of warriors. You ever read a book about Russian history? They've always been like that. See what they are now. They have been like that for centuries. Centuries.
I remember reading about Vladimir Lenin. See that when he was running the Red Army, he had to go round all the camps, him and his generals, and they had to take bottles of vodka at 50. Only I would drink because they all used to just get steaming all the time. It's a nation of drinkers and fighters. They're like, well, channel your fighting, fight for us, but don't drink. And I think nations that have places like Siberia, and that's where you're sent if you're naughty. It's going to breed a certain type of
human being.
A certain type of person.
Because, history is one of my things. The only time I've ever read about Russia getting properly leathered by an invading force, because they survived Hitler. I mean, they lost a lot of men in that war, but they won that fight. They beat Napoleon. The only invading force that's ever invaded Russia and conquered it was the Mongols. And that's because they're the best fighting unit that's ever lived. The Mongol army's the greatest warriors that have ever lived on planet Earth. And so you expect that. And that's because of where they came from. They came from the Central Asian steppes. Every bit as cold and harsh as Russia. So they invaded Russia in the winter, which you're not supposed to be able to do. Hitler and Napoleon both did that and get leathered because their men weren't used to that cold. But temperatures of -30 are common in winter in the Central Asian steppe. The Mongols didn't give a fuck. They waited till the rivers froze and marched their horses right up them into the city centres and slaughtered everybody. They go, fuck your winter, we don't care. That's the only time that's ever happened to Russia in their history as a nation.
I know this is kind of away from the...
When I fit by now, we're talking about Harlem.
National side, but that makes me happy that we live in the generation we do. I know we're filled with a lot of folk that are absolute fannies on social media, but I would rather look at somebody on social media and think you're a tit rather than
being faded.
rather than looking at my window and see a bunch of angry men in horseback, massive men in horseback with bows and swords, looking to cut my head off, burn my house, and rape my missus. I'd rather live in this time, and I'll take it. I'll take the folk on Twitter. I'll accept it. Rather to look out my window and see Genghis Khan coming up with these gang of goons. These goons. Imagine that.
Oh God, folk don't even. It was funny, man, because there was Genghis Khan was trending on Twitter last year, and it was hysterical. Because it seemed to me there was folk they were trying to cancel him, right? That's just what they were doing. That we shouldn't talk about him in good terms. Yada yada. It was horrible. And to me, that just seemed to me like all the young hipstery fuckers had never heard of him before and had only just found out who he was and what he did and the extent of the stuff that he did. And we're like, oh, I can't believe that guy was real. Because folks spend way much time banging on about how terrible Hitler was, and obviously Hitler was terrible, no saying he wasn't. But you go back to Genghis Khan, the man made Hitler look like a choir boy. Genghis Khan. He's the greatest conqueror that ever lived, and folk, unless they've read about him, can't understand the extent of what they did. They killed so many people that the carbon footprint of the earth was reduced. He saved the environment, but how many people they killed? You know how we often say the Middle East is sort of like 200 years behind the rest of the world? Some folks say that, no saying that's my opinion, but some folks say that because of their barbaric laws and the way they treat women and gays and things. That's been blamed on the Mongols, why they're like that. Because back then, 800, 900 years ago, Baghdad was the cultural hub of the entire world. All the best artists and poets and philosophers and doctors and medicine men all lived there. And the Mongols came and killed them all, burnt all their libraries down, and burnt all their books. It set their culture back centuries. That's a common historical belief that actual historians have. The reason that they went back, they didn't progress as quickly technologically as the rest of the world, is because the Mongols annihilated them all. You can't get your head around that. What kind of devastation is that? It's madness.
It's that way as well. How can you cancel a guy that lived about 1,000 years ago?
I know, it's weird, isn't it? I think they had just get confused. None of them had ever heard who he was.
Pick up his bones.
Because he's considered in modern Mongolia, they love him. There's statues of him everywhere. He's considered the founder of their nation, which he actually is. Mongolia wasn't a solid state back then. It was a loose confederacy of tribes, and he conquered them on, brought them under one banner. But they love him. They don't see him as a bad guy the way the rest of the world does, because again, he's their guy. And folk on Twitter were complaining about that. Like, I think you've just learned who the man is and want to get rid of him.
Aye.
I mean, everybody's so quick to go, he's the next Hitler. Hitler's this. And I think you've only just learned who Genghis Khan was, and was by all accounts worse than Hitler. And it's just upset you.
So you've got the likes of Genghis Khan, and then you've got Attila as well.
Attila the Hun, aye. My man, the barbarian king that sacked Rome. I like about Attila. They came from the same place as Genghis Khan, just 1,000 years before him. Right. The Central Asian steppe breeds bad motherfuckers.
They do.
Even he's not even the second worst. Attila the Hun is up there, but the next, I like to rank the conquerors, because medieval conquering is one of my favourite things to learn about. After Genghis Khan, it's Tamerlane, the guy from what is now Kazakh or Uzbekistan. It's Uzbekistan. He was a Turco-Mongol descendant of Genghis Khan that came hundreds of years after him and tried to build the Mongol Empire back to its former successes. He's a military genius, a master tactician, and invented his own variant of chess. But he also had 5% of the world's population killed as a result of his conquests. Tamerlane was a bad motherfucker. 5% of the world's population died because of him. That's madness. You can't even compute that in your head, can you? It's crazy to think about.
That's insane.
Amir Temur was his proper name. Tamerlane is the name history has remembered him by.
Because it's weird, because it's not weird, I kind of get it, but modern, a lot of your modern day fighters, they read a lot about conquerors.
Aye, Mike Tyson likes Alexander the Great.
Aye.
Hysterical.
Aye. I was in, because it was Mike Tyson I was thinking of there, because when he was on the Rogan show, he spent about half an hour talking about all conquerors that he's into.
But see, it helps put how great the Khan was in perspective, because Alexander the Great is remembered fondly by a lot of people, Mike Tyson included. Genghis Khan's empire was 4 times bigger than Alexander the Great's and twice the size of Rome's at its highest. That's how good the Mongols were. The greatest fighting force the world has ever seen.
It's just, see, because like where kind of Scottish slang has the word Mongols, but that's so weird.
We don't have an L in our version though.
Right.
This is Mongol and it's Mongol. There's an L in there at the end.
I've always wondered if that's a connection.
It is. It was there's a derogatory term comes from ancient Europe.
Right.
As a slang for the savages that were trying to kill everybody.
Right.
Because when they invaded Europe, the European priests thought the world was ending. They thought Genghis Khan was the scourge of God, they called him. They thought he was basically the Antichrist. He was coming to destroy the world. Priests killed themselves and stuff to avoid his wrath. They thought the world was on the brink of destruction when the Mongols came.
Which, if they go their way, it would have been.
They damn near did. Under Genghis Khan, there was 5 great Khans of the Mongol Empire. He was the first and the founder. They conquered Georgia and Hungary and a couple other in Russia, and then he died and it stopped. And then his son Ogadai come back and reconquered their countries because they rose up against him. And then they ever heard of the Teutonic Knights in the Knights Templar? The medieval Christian fighting force they sent on the Crusades in the Middle East. Well, when Ogadai Khan came over to conquer Europe, they sent that lot against them, and the Mongols slaughtered them. This was Europe's best army, and they get completely routed and leathered. And then so Europe fell to despair, thinking there's nothing to be done now. They're just going to go from country to country to country, taking everything and killing everybody. And then Ogadai Khan died of a heart attack because he was a massive alcoholic. And in their tradition, they had to go back to their homeland and elect a new Khan, and that process takes 3 years. So then there was the hell journey to get back there, which would have taken a very, very, very long time back then. And also, anybody that listens to this and drinks wine, you've Ogadai Khan to thank for your wine glasses because he was a huge alcoholic, and his wife made him swear he would cut down on the amount of glasses of wine he would drink. So he had his people make him bigger glasses. So he kept his promise. He cut down on the amount of glasses he was drinking. He just made the glass bigger. So modern wine glasses is his thing.
Was it no moulded off someone's breast?
I think so.
Aye. I think it was his wife's breast or something. I learned that from between us. But we've been right off the topic of football.
We have. I'm sorry, you got me started on conquest. No, I can go forever.
That's fine. A lot of people will probably enjoy it. So we'll end the podcast there. So thanks for listening, guys. And if you've enjoyed it, there'll be more weekly Scottish football coming up.
Yes. And previews of Europe, we could do a more in-depth show analysing the teams and the games and how we expect to play and how we expect to line up and all that sort of thing. That'd be fun. Yeah,
because this one, it's just been more kind of fun, kind of general chat about football. But
as we've not talked football in a while.
Aye.
So it's good to get back into it.
As it goes on, we'll get more in-depth, more actual analysis of the games.
And less stuff about how hard Russians are and how terrifying the Mongols were.
Aye.
That could be a separate show, though.
That could. But I'll see you later, guys.
All right. Catch you. Bye.